of the beginning of days. I dreamed again of a time long ago, before the count of years, when the world was still young and soft as a dream newly spoken. The Valar descended into Aya, the universe created out of the great music of the Ainur, to shape Adar, the world within this universe. A vision once only in the thought of Ilúvatar now made real beneath the flowing heavens. When the Valar came into Arda, the world was yet unshaped, a mist of fire and shadow filled with roaring seas and unquiet winds. They beheld its beauty and were glad, yet also they were troubled, for all things were wild, and the echo of Melkor's discord still beat through its bones. Then they began to labor, each according to their power and purpose, to give form and harmony to the world that was to be their dwelling until the end of days. Manwë, the noblest of them, took dominion over the airs and winds, and his delight was in the breath of Ilúvatar that moves in all living things. Beside him was Varda, Lady of the Stars, whose beauty was too great for mortal speech. Together they wove the airs and kindled the lights of heaven. Ulmo, Lord of Waters, dwelt alone in the deep places of the world. The music of his streams ran through all things that had life, whispering of both sorrow and joy. Aula the smith shaped the lands and the mountains, crafting the bones of Arda with hammer and flame. Yavanna, his spouse, caused green things to grow upon the earth, grasses, trees, and all fruits of field and forest. Nienna wept for the wounds of the world, and her tears cleansed the earth from the evils that Melkor wrought. Thus the Valar labored long in the shaping of Arda. They gathered the light of the firmament and made it dwell in two mighty lamps, Ilúin and Ormal, setting them upon tall pillars in the north and south. And their radiance filled the world, mingling day and night into a single golden hour. Under their glow, the lands awoke, the first mountains rose, the first rivers sang, and all was bright and young beneath the lamps of the Valar. Then the Valar rested in peace, and they made their dwelling in the Isle of Almaran, upon a lake in the midst of the world. There they dwelt in joy, and the spring of Arda was fair and green. But Melkor had not been idle. He was the first to descend into Aya, before the rest of the Valar followed. He desired to shape Arda into his own vision and claim lordship over it. In the darkness, he gathered his strength and looked with envy upon the works of his brethren. Desiring to rule the world for himself, he came upon Arda in wrath and struck down the pillars of light. The lamps were broken, and their fires spilled across the earth. But the Valar did not yield the world to Melkor's dominion. When the lamps were broken, and the light of Arda was drowned in ruin, they rose in wrath, for the beauty they had wrought was trampled and defiled. Then began the first great war that ever was in Aya, the Battle of the Powers. From the deeps of the sea came Ulmo, his wrath like 1,000 thunders. The waters heaved and rose at his command, drenching the fires Melkor had kindled in the ruin of the lamps. Aule struck the earth with his mighty hammer, and the mountains shuddered at his fury. From the heavens descended Manwë, Lord of the Winds, his spirit blazing white as lightning. And with him came Varda, his queen, who gathered the remnants of the heavenly light and cast them as stars upon the darkened sky, the first stars of heaven, burning cold and pure against the ruin below. Thus began the strife. The earth groaned under their contest. Mountains were broken, and valleys swallowed in flame and flood. The seas boiled, and the firmament was torn with storm and fire. Yet though the Valar fought with all their might, Melkor was mightier still, for he had poured more of his own being into the making of Arda than any of them, claiming its substance as his own. Wherever they healed, he marred. Wherever they raised up, he cast down. Then Tulkas the Strong came at last into Arda. He was the last of the Valar to descend, for he came from beyond the stars, laughing as he ran, swift as the wind of the morning. Great was his joy in battle, and his laughter shook the mountains. When he came, the tide of war turned, for none could withstand Tulkas in might of body, nor match his fearless heart. He wrestled with Melkor in the fields of Arda, and the dark Vala fled before him. for the laughter of Tulkas was like sunlight chasing away the shadow. So Melkor fled from the wrath of the Valar and left the lands they had made. Into the far north he went, where the light of the lamps did not reach, and there he hid himself in cold and secret places. There he delved deep beneath the earth and built a vast fortress of stone, Utumno, the first stronghold of darkness. From its iron halls his malice would spread again, though for a time the world knew peace, and the Valar, weary yet victorious, began the work of healing. But they were wary now, for they knew the shadow had not been destroyed, only driven back for a while. And in the dim north, under mountains of ice, the fires of Melkor smoldered still, waiting for the ages to turn. Mountains were hurled up, seas swallowed the lands, and darkness returned. Thus ended the spring of Arda. The Valar were dismayed, for the world was rent and they could not repair it while Melkor held its vastness in his grasp. They withdrew to the far west and built for themselves a new home, Valinor, the land of the blessed. There they raised the Pelori, the highest mountains on earth, to guard their realm from the shadow. In that land, they made all things beautiful beyond imagining, and its air was filled with the light of two new trees that Yavanna made, Telperion, silver and soft as moonlight, and Laurelin, golden as the morning sun. Thus began the days of the Blessed Realm. Time was counted in Valinor from the first shining of those trees, and their mingling lights marked the passing of hours. Under them, all was peace for a while, and the memory of Melkor's ruin grew dim, though not forgotten. For beyond the mountains and across the dark seas lay Middle-earth, still wounded and unhealed. There the Valar seldom walked, for Melkor's shadow lingered, and the stars shone cold upon its untamed lands. Yet the Valar knew that their labors were not done, for in the music of Ilúvatar it had been foretold that in the fullness of time the children of God would awaken, the elves first, and afterward men, and to them would belong the world that the Valar had prepared. So the Valar waited, guarding the light in Valinor, and watching the dark lands beyond the sea. And the world turned slowly beneath the mingled light of silver and gold, in the hush before the coming of the firstborn.